Hello, everybody. Welcome to the best thing about 1995. And we did just go live on Facebook. Oh, that was a comment from the chat. Hello, everybody. I'm Justin. Cliff is getting set up over at Scum and Villainy Cantina, so he'll be jumping on anytime here. Monica says, hello, first time getting to be here live. Oh, that means you've watched our VODs. I see Sarah Draper in the chat room. I see Of Gondor. Ooh, I don't know who is Of Gondor. Does that mean your horse? A horse is a horse. Princess Toy Nerd, Stephen R. I'm glad you are here. Look, we can just chat amongst ourselves before Cliff gets here. I can literally say anything I want, and Cliff is not here to yell at me. But he'll be here soon. I'm just gonna keep watching that participant invite and see if he's here. Dominique, Nadia, Erovandi. Hello, everybody. So, the OneRing.net has been doing this show for 10 years. The site itself has been around 22 years. We were founded in 1999, just as production was gearing up for Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. And then it took off. And then the whole thing took off. And there were multiple websites and multiple fans. I'd say that there were two main Peter Jackson era scoop sites. And both of our sites became friends with Peter and the production. There was Ain't It Cool News and Harry Knowles and his team. But mostly Harry. Harry became friends with Peter. And then there was the OneRing.net, which I wasn't posting then, and streaming video wasn't really a thing then. So it was just a bunch of volunteer college kids or recent college grads that were posting all the rumors. And I don't know if you guys saw some of the tweets that we've been doing all year long, looking back at 20 years of Lord of the Rings. I found our first rumor that we posted on the OneRing.net, the first rumor, it was like the fifth post on the site, period, the rumor was George Lucas was attached to Lord of the Rings. Yes. That George Lucas. That was the first rumor. And then the next post after that were helicopter shots of the Shire being built in Hobbiton. So 20 years ago, we got it way wrong, and then we got it way right after another. And we're doing it again. The same thing's happening now. Like, we hear every single rumor. We share half of the rumors that we hear. We try to verify as much as possible. But sometimes something is so fun, we just got to post it. And maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. And sometimes it's real deal. But Candace in the chat room remembers that. The other big thing that happened way back when is that the look of Gandalf was shrouded in secrecy. No one knew. No one had done a great wizard on film for many, many years. And so it was like, if there was a lot of stress on fans of like, they got to get Gandalf right. I mean, they do. And the stress from fans was like, we got to get they have to get Gandalf right. But there was a certain set of fans, legit conservative, mostly Catholic fans, that had issues with Ian McKellen's announced casting, because he was very out. He was very gay. He was very much a champion of gay rights and stuff. And this is before gay marriage was legal and all this stuff. So everyone was like, Gandalf is the most important character in Tolkien's world. Tolkien was Catholic. It's weird to have a. So anyway, that drama was. And it wasn't just on our message boards. There were conservative and religious websites popping up that had all these opinions about it. And not just from trolls, like from long-term priests and stuff like that. Like, the last 20 years have been amazing progressively, but so that what we've heard since then is that reaction, even though it wasn't universal, caused the studio to hold back any look at Ian McKellen's Gandalf because they didn't want everyone to judge it yet. It just the online discourse caused some nervousness at the studio. So they were like, so no one knew what Gandalf looked like or anything like that. And then Ian McKellen sent the One Ring a picture of his shadow. That's all. He was on a concrete, outside in the concrete. The sun was casting a long shadow, and all he did was point the camera down. You couldn't even see his feet, so you didn't even see his boots, right? All you saw was Gandalf's shadow. We got that photo. We posted it. It was the first glimpse of Gandalf, and it was just his shadow. And everyone was like freaking out. Freaking out. So everyone says, I tell these stories because everything that goes on now in the movie discourse, people think, oh, it's a sign of the times. It's just new. We're all polarized. No, it's always been like this. It's always been like this. It was, Reese, you're absolutely right. That was one heck of a tease. It was a heck of a tease. I can't imagine how frustrated. I wonder if Ian McKellen got yelled at. I wonder if someone from the studio had to go into Ian McKellen's trailer while he's getting done up, because it took like an hour to get his beard on and stuff like that. I wonder if someone had to go in and say, sir, he wasn't knighted yet, so he was just Ian McKellen. Mr. McKellen, there's no way that photo came from anyone else. Like, we know it was you. Can you not? Can you not? So it was the biggest tease, and so it's so weird that we don't have anything like that from the cast. This TV show for Amazon supposedly has a ginormous cast. They've been shooting all through the pandemic. They shot for over a year, close to 18 months. And the fact that we don't have anything, not even a slip of an Instagram story. Like all of these actors dressed up in hopefully the best costumes in television history, the realism, and everything like that. Like just the excitement of being an actor on set in this big fantasy world. I can't imagine that Lenny Henry is probably the equivalent of Ian McKellen at that time. Lenny Henry now is probably the equivalent of Ian McKellen 20 years ago, with enough stature to probably get away with something. And it's just, I find it crazy that we, in the age of social media and Instagram stories and leaked Facebook photos and people texting their friends and that getting out, that nothing has leaked from Amazon's show. Things are kept so tight. Emily, you're absolutely right. Kelsey in the chat room says Bezos has snipers on every single actor at all times. I believe it. He's got a space company. It's not hard to believe that he has space lasers. Like I just imagine. Yeah, Dan, there was a photo of stairs, empty stairs. That leaked out of Amazon show just a couple weeks ago, and Amazon did a copyright DMCA claim, and you can't even find it anymore on Twitter. Anyway. I guess we've been in this game so long that everything we've been through before. So things are going to be wrong, things are going to be right. We're going to hear stuff. Things will change. We had the One Ring had posted rumors that Frodo gets corrupted by the ring, and they shot this whole thing where he looks like Gollum, and they did shoot that, but that's not in the movie. And if you look up Frodo Gollum, there's makeup. You can see photos of Elijah Wood in the makeup. So it's just so everyone has their opinions, and as Tolkien intended, Tolkien wanted people, the reader, to bring their own lived-in experience to the story, and he was very adamant of not saying that this means that, and that is an allegory for that. He's like, he wanted the ringer to bring their worldview into his story. There's room for everything, and that's why when you can read Lord of the Rings, you can read it throughout your life and identify with different characters at different points in your own life, and your favorite character may change throughout the books. So 20 years ago, when there was a group, groups of fandom who are no less fans than anybody else that had concerns that Ian McKellen being gay was going to affect his performance, and affect what Gandalf was supposed to be, and then he turned in an awesome performance, and absolutely nobody has anything to say about Ian McKellen after they saw it. But it's the hype of the movie. So, but for some fans reading this on the more progressive side, it was like, oh my God, you guys, stop with the homophobia. Ian McKellen even had to post on his website, if you go to McKellen.com, that he wrote a blog post from the set saying, hey, I'm hearing all these rumors, people are asking me for comment. He's like, chill, I'm just here to tell Tolkien's story. But for some fans, it was just like, oh, those guys are gross. Those are guys. Well, everyone's got their opinion, but the same feeling that a lot of people had about that controversy of like, oh, gay Gandalf. Oh no. So it was stupid then, and it's stupid now. And I feel the same way about this stuff with Lenny Henry playing a Harfoot. It's like, oh, there are no black hobbits. If you look at Tolkien's word, he said darker of skin or browner of skin, not blacker of skin. Well, it's not, the skin's not black. You sound as stupid now. Critiquing, the skin color of someone as people did back then, critiquing the actor's social choice, status, lifestyle. I don't know. But it all feels familiar. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's just, none of this is new. It's not identity politics that have suddenly gotten into our media. It's always been there. And if you watch Cliff's documentary, Ringer's Lord of the Fans, that all those sides of fandom, Tolkien hated that the tree-hugging hippies that smoked too much grass in the 60s, adopted Lord of the Rings as their, thing. Tolkien wasn't a big fan of that. So yeah. So, we dealt with all this. We dealt with controversy then, and we're going to keep dealing with it now. But, there's no winning. There's no winning. It's just everyone's going to say their piece, and all we can do is, acknowledge and say, you know what? And here's the thing about this fandom in particular, is that the One Ring put on all those Oscar parties that were so much fun, and we were privileged to have the cast and crew bring their Oscars to the party. But more importantly, and people still remark about this, they send us nice messages, they're sometimes here in the chat, but there's a lot of long-standing community members at the OneRing.net message boards and volunteer staff and everything that were so that the memory of those Oscar parties were as much about this disparate group of fans from all walks of life. You know, Cliff had blue hair and, you know, doing his wild thing, and the most conservative. We had priests and pastors attending this party, and there was just this melding of lifestyles and personalities in the middle of Hollywood, you know, and it was that authenticity of fandom. It's that we're not just one, we're all. And the cool thing about this fandom is that we come together with under our passion for Tolkien, and so that's what's really exciting about this. And so I appreciate the debate sometimes. You know, it can get kind of toxic, and our amazing volunteer message board mods are really good at, you know, moderating and detecting, you know, who's just trying to be a troll, or who's has legitimate personal, bringing their personal experience into their concerns for the show. And that's all we can do. And so we have 20 years of this experience to kind of inform, you know, if we see a comment pop up on Twitter or Reddit or wherever, or our message boards or in the chat, and it's, you know, it's way off base. I mean, there are some signs that, you know, this guy might be just here to troll. Like, his account is less than 30 days old. He doesn't have a profile pic yet. He's never commented on anything. And the only tweets that are on his profile are all political motivated. Come on. You're a professional troll at some point. If you don't have any other hobbies other than making everything political, don't come into our mentions, please. Because there's a difference between having an opinion and a lived-in experience, and wanting to share that with the community versus just trying to win an argument. Black Sauce Noodles just joined us on Twitch. Of Gondor's on Twitch. Wait, I thought you were on YouTube. We're on all the channels right now. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Kelsey says, a fellowship, if you will. And that's the whole point of the fellowship, right? It's people that don't like each other. That's why they have the argument at the Council of Elrond, to show that nobody gets along. Everybody thinks they're right. Everybody thinks they have claim. Everybody thinks they're the smartest. Everybody thinks they should be the leader. That's what's amazing about fellowship. Is that you all come together over a thing, over a singular passion, and that's what we're doing here. Candace says she just watched Ringers last week, and that's wonderful, wonderful. So anyway. Well, I was going to wait for Cliff to give you guys the news, but he's not here. I feel like does anyone out there make music? Like, I we need some music for the show where I can like go into like the news desk portion and you know, like do 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 do, you know, or something like that. Noel Durham. Rory is in the chat room. Hello. Suzanne. Hi. If dwarves and elves can get along, why can't we? Yes, that's exactly it. Princess Toy Nerd says, what Isildur rumors? Who's talking about Isildur? All I said was Ringbearer. All right, the title of the show is Ringbearer in the Second Age. What does that mean? Well, on the latest rumors. Remember this guy? This guy? Uh-oh. Speaking of old white guys, we got Cliff coming into the chat. But you know who this is. This is Isildur. Nerd of the Rings mentioned Isildur. There's 400,000 people following Nerd of the Rings. I'm so proud of that guy. Uh, Cliff Broadway, how are you? And we were just starting. I was just starting to talk about Isildur. Now Isildur.
Should have done a much better job with the moral dilemma that was put in front of him. You can hear the
Wait.
sound of
What do you mean he should have done a better job?
Isildur. Well, you obviously know what I mean. He should have, at the moment of taking the ring from Sauron's finger, he should have done exactly what he needed to do. It was depicted, um, perhaps in a non-canonical way, but maybe it was fairly accurate. We're not sure. But Peter Jackson depicted that famous moment where Elrond, interesting, both of them famous brothers of history. Elrond, the brother of Elros, and also Isildur, the brother of Anarion. It's a continuing theme in Tolkien's work, in his
Wait,
literature.
wait. Isn't Omarion a rapper?
No, stop it. Anyways, look. I find it really
Wait,
interesting.
Okay, hold on.
We're
Who
talking.
is Isildur's brother? What Anarion? Is he a king or is he a court jester?
They were the two sons of Eringdil.
Wait, okay, so Aragorn's grandpappy pappy Elendil, whose sword got broken. There's his Elendil's son is Isildur, and then Isildur has a brother, and then a couple generations later, there's Aragorn.
I did mistakenly say the name Erendil. Um, it is true that Anarion, kind of like Boromir and Faramir, are a unique set of brothers in the story. I'm just pointing out that Professor Tolkien really likes to use that dynamic with his characters. There are powerful family dynamics between brothers that have problems or conflict or interesting relationships. And the parallel that I was looking at was the difference between, one brother, a famous brother, Elrond, in that Peter Jackson film, in that moment where he's begging Isildur, another famous brother from the histories of Middle Earth, and he says to him, "Do the right thing, destroy it." And Isildur keeps the ring for himself. And perhaps that was not entirely canonical to the books, but the way that was depicted by Peter Jackson was it was effective, and it got the point home. The point that I was making was that at the opportunity, right when the ring was cut from Sauron's finger, during the last alliance of elves and men, that was when the ring should have been destroyed by Isildur. That's what I
Well,
mean. You know what I'm
okay, so a comment from Kelsey says they always thought that it was Elrond's perspective of the event that we were watching, not necessarily the canon of what actually happened, just Elrond's point of view.
Yeah, Elrond's point of view. That's true. But another interesting change, a change that Peter Jackson made from the books to his film version, is the statues of the Argonath themselves.
Okay.
Remember the
Yeah.
Argonath?
Yeah.
Okay. The book tells us that the two statues are the two brothers, Anarion and Isildur. And the movie tells us that they're the father and the son, that they're Elendil and Isildur. Isn't that right? They changed it.
Wait, you're saying that in the movie that this guy that we saw in the prologue of Fellowship is one of the statues that they roll by on the river later?
Um, yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay,
That's
so
right.
okay, so question. I've got a picture of Isildur right here holding a ring. Does that make him a ring bearer?
Yeah. For a moment, he is. He's been counted by Professor Tolkien, and all of scholarship agrees that even for the brief time that Samwise was a ring bearer, even though the brief time that Isildur was a ring bearer, but I think Isildur had it according to the books for a couple of years, and then there was a disaster at the Gladden Fields where he was ambushed and killed by orcs.
So did he ever use the ring? Did he ever put on the ring?
Don't know. I mean, maybe
So
so.
there
We can assume he did. We can assume that he did because of the way that he wrote about it. When he wrote his historical account in his own voice, Isildur speaks of the ring as if he's very familiar with wearing it, but he doesn't say that specifically.
Chekatana in the chat room reminds us that Anarion is killed in one of the battles under Barad-dûr. Wait, so Barad-dûr is that the stronghold? Like, there isn't a flaming eye at Barad-dûr yet because Sauron had just been sliced. And you guys, we're trying to do a show and Cliff is texting. He's late to his own show and now he's texting.
I'm communicating with the YouTube. I'm saying hello.
You can talk to the YouTube. You're literally on the air. Like, talk.
Do both. I'm gonna acknowledge all the good people who are here with us on the show today, and always remember that a wizard is never late, nor is he early.
Okay, so wait. So Anarion. Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, I think you were onto something. Let's go back. You said Tolkien might have a thing with all these brothers, all over the show.
It was already pointed out by someone in the chat that there's a Cain and Abel dynamic, which is like the oldest storytelling. I mean, in terms of a very Catholic and Judeo-Christian point of view, the story of Cain and Abel is the first story. It's like it's the story of the first conflict between human beings.
Yeah, but in none of his stories does a brother kill a brother.
Yeah, it is the story of two, but it's the story of two brothers, and it is about the dynamics of fratricide on a small degree to a larger degree. It's the story about the first time that any human beings have any dynamic with each other that isn't perfect agreement. They actually have a conflict.
I'm not buying this Cain and Abel stuff because there are no brothers killing each other.
No, it's not. It's not about that element of the story. It's about Professor Tolkien's very Catholic point of view. Because
I'm not buying the Cain and Abel. There's so many other brothers in the Bible. But let's get back to Tolkien. Did he have a brother?
Take a look at Boromir and Faramir. It also reflects that same dynamic. It's very clear.
I don't believe that.
You don't have to believe it. There are many, many instances in First Age and Second and Third Age stories where Professor Tolkien uses those family dynamics that push and pull, that dynamism. It doesn't have to involve murder. Specifically, it's beyond that. It's about the scope of family dynamics encapsulated in brotherly conflict, or the dynamics of brotherhood that shift and change, the oath of Feanor and his sons, and how some brothers operated with that oath. It's all the way that Elrond and
Smeagol and Deagle, Elrond and Elros.
Smeagol, they're cousins.
Okay,
but
well,
it's especially visible in Isildur and Anarion and Elrond and Elros.
Did Tolkien have a brother?
The thing.
Did Tolkien have a brother?
Yes, Hillary. Remember the movie? You saw the movie that was directed by Jome Korakowski. He has a younger brother. His name was Hillary.
That's right.
Yeah. We only see him in a few scenes, but yeah, Professor Tolkien and his younger brother were both orphaned when their mother died. Yes, that's right. So that is one of the reasons why in Professor Tolkien's experience, his life experience, and in his Catholicism, there is that dynamic of brother stories and stories between brothers and brothers against each other and brothers united against the world. Whatever the theme is, it's a very popular thing, I think, in Tolkien's approach to narrative construction. I think it's an instinctual thing for him to look at that type of narrative, and he does it very well. He does it very well. So I just found it very interesting that Isildur had a chance to change all the fate of Middle Earth, and he just made the wrong choice. He literally showed a strengthening of the bias that elves have against men, that men don't have the moral fiber or the strength, or you could call it the fortitude, but the elves have a bias against men, and they certainly, the dwarves have a bias against the elves, and it's a very interesting world to see Peter Jackson briefly reflect on that dynamic in that brief little scene that he does in the film. But I'm intrigued more about Isildur's appearance in this new, allegedly appearance in the new Amazon series, and how on earth are we going to squeeze this person into
Well,
the timeline?
let's get into that in a sec. But the other big news this week, not just that Isildur is in it, but a website, Redanian Intelligence. And if you remember Redanian Intelligence, they were the ones that found the leaked scripts and those Vimeo, those actor links to auditions. So they've been pretty good at finding scoops. Redanian Intelligence is reporting that Maxim Baldry is Isildur. Actor Maxim Baldry, who was one of the first announced cast members in Amazon's billion-dollar Lord of the Rings series. According to Redanian Intelligence, Maxim Baldry is Isildur. There's a side-by-side.
And if that is true, I am right back at the question: what on earth are they doing in the writer's room, and how are they trying to put this storytelling together in a timeline that doesn't break all the rules or break all the established historical canon that you see Tolkien was so diligent about crafting? So I'm just kind of wondering what's going on here. Go ahead, Justin.
I just want to talk about Maxim Baldry. He has a different look than the actor that played Isildur in Peter Jackson's thing. Now we know that
was
Kate.
Harry Sinclair.
We know that Amazon cast an actress to look that looks. She does look close to Cate Blanchett's Galadriel, and they originally cast Will Poulter that he looks strikingly similar to Hugo Weaving, and then he left the show, so Robert Aramayo is. But I would think that Amazon in these few repeating characters, it is as far as we know, they've made an effort to cast people that look like Peter Jackson's characters. So it's interesting that this rumor that Maxim Baldry is Isildur, they look very different.
Mm-hmm. They do.
Is there a possibility that Maxim Baldry is the brother, Anarion?
Say that again?
Do you think that there's a possibility that Maxim Baldry is the brother, Anarion, and this is a little misdirection in the rumor mill?
Okay. That is an intriguing probability. There are certain characters that have always been cut when it comes to Tolkien being adapted from book to screen. And we're looking at, obviously Glorfindel, the Elven Lord, obviously. And then the other one would be Anarion. Anarion, the brother, is always omitted from historical conversation. You can go through hours and hours and hours of Peter Jackson movies, and all you're ever going to get are references to Isildur. You'll never get a mention of Anarion at all. You know what I mean? So uh, here's a note from the YouTube chat. Thank you. Chekatana says that here's additional information on the death, the final fate of Isildur's brother, Anarion. It says, Anarion was slain in the second age, 3440, when a stone cast from Barad-dûr, either from falling debris or by catapult, struck him. And he died. And that is the ignominious end of Isildur's brother, who is, one of the statues in the book. The original Argonath are those two brothers, if I'm not mistaken. So I find this very interesting. If you've got many more characters that you want to put on stage, and Amazon has already paid for the licensing, then they should. It would be a waste if they overlook Anarion, and there could be so much wonderful, fertile ground, again, to explore the brother dynamics that Tolkien is so interested in exploring in his many stories. So why not? I think that could be a probability, but if Maxim Baldry is playing Isildur, that's great. Maybe there's another character we don't know yet, another actor who's going to come in and play, Isildur's brother.
It's got to be one of the actors we already know.
Thank you. All right, yeah. Hey, then do you know what?
Were they were rulers in the South, right?
There's still some casting announcements that the studio is holding close to their chest.
Yeah, but we already know 50 people that are in the show that we just don't have their names, their character names attached. We already know 50 people. So
okay, great, fair enough. Well, then in that case, they shouldn't be making up brand new characters out of nothing and then omitting the existing important characters that already have an established history. So maybe this logic that you're suggesting has a little bit more credence. Maybe there's something to support your idea, at least if it's not going to be Mr. Maxim Baldry himself, then at least somebody should be playing Anarion. We do have all these actors announced, and I think it would be far better for them to use existing canonical characters that are in the appendices in the books instead of making up people out of whole cloth. And yeah.
It's interesting that I love that you brought up in the chat room. I love you guys because you've got Smeagol family members, you got Elrond Elros, you got Faramir Borm, you've got all of these familial units, and it's interesting. It's pretty powerful actually. If this Isildur rumor pans out, that there's the opportunity for the brother unit for this show. And there are so many. Here's the thing, especially in the first season, Cliff, you've talked about this many times. Amazon's challenge for the first season is to open up this world, but have enough things that feel familiar and have enough things in the first season that feel like Lord of the Rings. And that's an amorphous concept, but this idea of brothers, and going back to The Hobbit as well, Hobbit was full of brothers. So this idea of a known character that fans remember from the movies and the books, and that has a brother unit that is familiar, and there's some stuff that can go on in that unit.
Yeah.
So
because the other rumor that I wanted to talk about, and I agree with you on this. The idea of Frodo being an only child and him not having any siblings, you see the relationship with his cousins. They get very close. They become very close. They become like brothers when Frodo never had any sisters or brothers, right? So here comes, his relationship with his gardener, who becomes like a brother to him, and then his relationship with his cousins, and they are so filial. That relationship is so fraternal that those two cousins go all the way to freaking ends of the earth to the War of the Ring and back because of their brotherly affection for Frodo, because he was an only child. And all the hobbits, I think, are sympathetic to that, really. And I think that bonding and that brotherhood type of thing is evident in many, many portrayals of characters in Tolkien's stories.
Another connection to the movies that this Isildur rumor strengthens is we got a chat room comment that says the foundation being built for Minas Tirith for Anarion and Minas Ithil for Isildur. So they share. They each have their own kingdoms, and they start building the iconic locations that
the
are
iconic locations that are bright and shiny and beautiful and very Numenorian in influence. And then we get to see what they are like before they become horrible and green and sickly and all Mordor infested.
Yeah. So Minas Tirith is the white city, but what is Minas Ithil? So Isildur has Minas Ithil.
Yeah, Minas Ithil is the Tower of the Moon, and it was later to become Minas Morgul. That's right.
Minas Morgul?
Yeah, Minas Ithil would later become Minas Morgul.
Wait, so that green tower, that the green tower that all of the armies of Mordor come spewing forth is this guy's castle?
Yes, that's right.
What?
Tower of the Rising Moon. Tower of the Rising Moon. That's correct. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen in the chat corrected me because I was like just saying, oh, it's Tower of the Moon, but it's the Tower of the Rising Moon.
Whoa.
That was originally Isildur's home. Have you ever played Shadow of War or Shadow of Mordor?
No. Well, I don't remember. I don't remember this detail.
Those video games very popularly realized the existence and the population of happy people living in Minas Morgul way back when it was Minas Ithil, way before.
All right, so this green castle that everyone should be familiar with is this guy's home. Does this guy, when this guy gets corrupted by the ring, because he's a ringbearer for a couple years, does his castle get corrupted? Is that when his castle gets corrupted into the green monster?
That happens centuries later when the Nazgul and Sauron's forces move into it and take it over. That does not happen. I love that the YouTube chat has reminded us, thank you, Peregrine Costa, that the brothers Isildur and Anarion had thrones, side by side thrones in Osgiliath, right on the river.
In Osgiliath?
Yeah. That was defended by Faramir unsuccessfully in the Return of the King movie. So yeah. So the whole thing about them having Maxim Baldry playing Isildur is cool. If that turns out to be a robust and true rumor, then great, because it's a signifier that they're also going to bring in Isildur's brother, Anarion, and because that character has been never mentioned, rather neglected in Peter Jackson's films, and kind of like Glorfindel, the elven lord Glorfindel is always overlooked in on-screen adaptations. So here's a chance for them to bring a lot of the characters around Isildur, not just him by himself, but a lot of other characters alongside him. And that is, as Gandalf would say, that is an encouraging thought.
Well, so this is nothing but good news. Having Isildur.
But it still leaves many of us scratching our head.
Well, hold on. Yeah, I was gonna say like the good stuff, as we just said, Isildur joining, Isildur in Amazon show in the first season is good because one, it introduces a brother dynamic that will feel familiar to everybody. Two, introduces a bunch of characters and a whole ecosystem and storylines of characters. Three, introduces a bunch of familiar locations from the old movies. So Isildur makes perfect sense to reintroduce people to Middle Earth, bring them back in, and he makes sense for the first season because we like Cliff, like we've been saying, the challenge Amazon has is that you can't just throw us all the way back into the first stage and expect us to like it. It's like the first season, you really have to slow roll and bring fans.
What kind of slow roll are you talking about when allegedly the first two episodes that were directed by J.A. Bayona are going to be first age, and then they're going to suddenly time jump on episode 3 to Isildur, and they're going to be in late second age all of a sudden, and they're going to just time jump all of that stuff? And you're talking to me about a slow roll? Come on.
Well, no, that we've got 50 hours and 5 seasons. We've got 50 hours and 5 seasons. That's what I mean, slow roll.
At least 5 seasons, but that is what I really want to talk about. Is, I mean, we have to grapple with the concept of them trying to sell us a second age show, and the big opener is going to be all first age stuff. I mean,
well, that's a different topic, but staying on Isildur, his being in the show in the first season, kind of puts us way late in the game, dude. Like, if this show is about the second age, Isildur in episode 3 puts us way late, doesn't it? Doesn't it just, the timeline just...
Well, I mean, it really wants to ask you, what are we going to talk about, the original foundations of Numenor, or are we only going to cut straight to late stage Numenor when it's past the height of its glory and has gone from being glorious and doing wonderful things to centuries later being a place of horror and people who are misled by Sauron? I mean, look.
Wait. What does Numenor have to do with Osgiliath?
Well, after the destruction of Numenor, the faithful that were led by Elendil and his sons Anarion and Isildur and all the other members of the faithful, they left and founded new kingdoms of Gondor, and that's where they went after Numenor was destroyed, as you know.
Wait, I don't know. So Isildur was in Numenor with his daddy. He was a prince, and then when the fall of Numenor happens, Isildur, his brother, and his daddy go take over lands in Middle Earth.
One of our live chat one of our live chat friends in the YouTube chat has properly identified that Isildur was an adult by the time of the fall of Numenor.
Yeah, well, when I say, look, you can be an adult and still have a pappy. That's what I'm saying is a prince is still an adult. There's a 75-year-old prince waiting to assume the throne in Britain right now. It doesn't matter. Like, you can still be a prince and be an old man. What I'm saying is, this guy, Isildur, is in Numenor.
Yes.
When it falls.
Yes. Correct. That is
so
correct.
Do you think Numenor is going to fall in the first season And do you think it's gonna take 5 more seasons to tell the foundation of Gondor and all that stuff?
If they bring Numenor to its complete destruction by the end of season one, that might be just like, I think that would be a great season one cliffhanger. That season two, has to pick up with the survivors and what happens next. Don't you think?
Yeah, I know. What?
But they were not princes. They were not princes in Numenor, but they were born in Numenor, and yeah, the YouTube chat is filled with absolute perfect historical facts. Thank you everybody in the chat, and I'm sure I wish I could see the other live audience on Facebook.
So what were they? If Daddy is the ruler of Numenor, then what were they?
They were not the sons of our Pharazôn. They were the sons of Elendil. And Elendil.
Who was Elendil? I thought he was a king.
Elendil was the king who got killed by Sauron and got his sword broken and died. Sauron killed Elendil in that brief.
So Elendil has no royalty in Numenor. They're just 3 guys. They're just a dad and his 2 sons escaping a toxic a dangerous earthquake situation.
They were part of a population of Numenorians who were faithful to the Valar, and they were not corrupted by Sauron. They were not with other people of Numenor who were under the king, our Pharazôn.
Okay, so they aren't royalty.
I'm telling you that they were not royalty. The faithful were persecuted by the other Numenorians. They lived on the opposite side of the island of Numenor. And by the end of the Numenorian history, when the whole thing fell apart, and Pharazôn was convinced by Sauron to go and attempt an attack on Valinor, and that caused, the powers of the Valar to, just destroy Numenor entirely. The only people who survived were the members of the citizens who were the faithful Numenorians, and a lot of them were led. They found their leadership with Elendil and a few others, and then they got in their boats and they left Numenor right before it was destroyed, and they survived and they landed on the coasts of Middle-earth, and they were still not related to the bloodline of the king, Pharazôn, and Sauron was destroyed. The only thing left of him was a wisp that floated above the tumultuous ocean, and that wisp held the ring, levitating the ring above the surface of the water, and what was left of Sauron's spirit floated back to Mordor into hiding, and then it took a long time for Sauron to reform again.
This sounds like Ganondorf and the Triforce of Power with The Legend of Zelda.
And Elendil founded the kingdom of Arnor.
Wait, did he conquer Arnor, or was it just like a blank land and he's like, all right, we'll plant our flag here?
That's right, exactly. That's exactly how it was, yes. Okay, I know the ring thing doesn't ring a bell, but people in the chat who might be wondering what I'm referring to, in J.R.R. Tolkien's published letters, there were people who had written to him asking about how the ring could physically still exist if at that point Numenor was destroyed under the tumultuous waves and the cataclysm that destroyed the continent, the island continent. And in response to that query, Professor Tolkien explained, I don't think that your mind should boggle at the fact that Sauron should have some kind of metaphysical way to, retain the physical ring, even though his body was destroyed, and take it with him and go back over the waters and return with the ring back to the mainland of Middle-earth. And Professor Tolkien said, I don't visualize that as a problem. That's what he said. So that's where I got that from. He addressed that in the letter to somebody.
This feels like, you know that Secret of Nim cartoon, one of my favorite movies of all time, The Secret of Nim? Yeah. Remember at the end?
That'd be Don Bluth's greatest accomplishment, his greatest film.
But remember when the necklace, when Mrs. Brisby is about to drown and the necklace falls up in the air, and then flies to where it needs to? That's what
Yep.
you just described.
That's exactly what I visualize, except it's being carried by the remaining spiritual essence of Sauron. You know. So
Okay, so
that,
so
yeah.
so they're colonizers, but they're not conquerors.
When the faithful arrive on the coasts, there are already established, settlements that the Numenorians had already established, but all those Numenorians are gone, and they're the ones there now, and they establish the kingdom in the north of Arnor, and there's a lot going on there. They establish relations. Gil-galad is dead at this point in the story. No, he's not. Excuse me. Gil-galad is very much alive, and so is Elrond. So they establish relations with the elves in Lindon, and then they go and establish Arnor in the north and Gondor in the south. Different members of the family do this. Different members of Elendil's family do this, and they separate on the map. Yes.
Okay. So they're not royalty in Numenor. They escape with the rest of the faithful. They get to Middle Earth and they go and they find some old settlements that have been discarded or abandoned for whatever reason, and they say, "All right, this is where we're settling."
Here's what we've got from Leonardo in the YouTube chat. Elendil and his sons Isildur and Anarion were in the house of Anduni back in Numenor, and that's Anduni with an IE on the end and the little dots over the E. And they were descendants of the royal bloodline, but with no rights to the throne on the island. Yeah.
Does the king of Numenor die when it falls?
Yes. Well, actually, he's on the ships over there trying to invade Valinor.
Okay, I'm just trying to find out, is Elendil, does Elendil like take the throne, or is it kind of a reluctant, like, I guess I'm next in line, and
There's no more throne. There is no more throne.
so he just takes another land and says, we're gonna start here, and then Arnor turns into this thing, and the sons.
When they arrive in Middle Earth, they say we're going to start fresh because Numenor and that throne and that royal bloodline doesn't exist anymore. So they decide they're going to start fresh in Middle Earth. Right.
All right. Well, okay. The reason we wanted to bring up this rumor again, if you're late to the show, this guy, Isildur, is supposedly going to be in the first season of Amazon's show, and he's played by this guy, supposedly, Maxim Baldry, and Redanian Intelligence, the website, is reporting that Maxim Baldry is Isildur, but I have this weird hunch that he's not Isildur, he's Isildur's brother, Anarion.
No, well, I don't know why you would think that, but I will correctly support you on the idea that the presence of Isildur automatically means to me that the writers are going to bring in his brother. So somebody is going to be Anarion, and we might as well start speculating who.
The hairlines match. I gotta say, the hairlines do match. I don't think he wore prosthetics because or a fake beard because he kept his day-old shadow during production. One of the reasons we think that this rumor is accurate is we've been reporting for 18 months, Cliff. We've been reporting that, and you don't want to hear it, but I've been saying for 18 months that the pilot, Numenor falls in the pilot.
In the first 2-hour pilot? No, they can't do that.
And the reason we say that is because the biggest aquatic stunts happened during Bayona's time. The biggest aquatic stunts, the biggest water towers, the biggest water sets, the biggest vendors and safety guys were hired for the first 2 episodes, and then we had that huge head injury by Alyssa Caldwell for the pilot. So Bayona was responsible for a huge water battle.
You think so?
We know
Well,
so.
the chat is saying that if Bayona is going to be doing first age stuff, we saw that image of the two trees,
I
and
think
that
it's
image of
misdirection. That's like the first 5 minutes of the show. Once there was the two trees. Da 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 da.
oh, okay. In that case, it is possible that if they are also doing a quick synopsis of the first age and then they do away with it and never go back to it again, then it's possible, and I'll agree with our live chatter in the YouTube of Gondor. It is possible they're showing the War of Wrath that will sink and destroy Balerians under the waves. That might be the reason why there's so much water tanks and flood stunts. You know what?
Really?
That is just as likely as anything else if they're going to do a quote unquote synopsis of the first age and then jump into second age stuff on episode 3. So
You don't think
it's going to be destroyed?
do you
Numenor will be destroyed until maybe the end of season 1, maybe the beginning of season 2.
Okay.
As the opening, the big opening of season 2 is to actually see the massive destruction of Numenor. Can you imagine? That would bring all the fans to the television sets to watch that. That would be quite the satisfying cliffhanger.
Huh.
Hold on a second. Hold on, I'm going to mute my microphone 1 second.
All right. Well, there you have it. So that's the latest rumor that Isildur is in the show and he's played by Maxim Baldry. And this introduces a lot more storytelling. I feel my first gut instinct was this kind of compresses the timeline a lot. But I think the two trees was a misdirection. I think the picture of the two trees was a totally misdirection. Chat room says Arendil with Silmaril upon his brow. Yes, that could be cool. Okay, that could be really cool. Yeah. All right.
There's
well,
kinds of probable things, and especially this idea that the War of Wrath gets to, look, we know that Bayona loves doing floods and flood scenes and water tanks.
That's why I'm saying he did the what was it? The Impossible?
Possible. We know that he loves that. So let him do the War of Wrath, and then he can wrap up all that stuff for.
Wait, you're telling me Numenor isn't the only island that sinks?
No. The only island that sinks is Numenor. When we're talking about Beleriand, we're talking about a massive, massive continent, or the entire continental shelf that makes a whole new interior shoreline. Look, one edge of the map on the Silmarillion is the other edge of the map in the Third Age, because the ocean waters take up all of it and come right up to the mountains, the Blue Mountains, where the Grey Havens are, right? I want to get you on to Nerd of the Rings video where he shows the map and can show the differences between the maps. And also, I'd like to sit down with you with my copy of the Atlas of Middle Earth, and I'll show you, because Karen Wynne Fonstad showed the dotted lines to show where all of the areas of Middle Earth were sunk beneath the waves after the War of Wrath. And you can see it on her maps. It's fully explained.
All right. Hey, moving on. Cliff, what did you think of Dune?
Oh my, okay. I have one or two things to say, because I am the biggest Frank Herbert fan. And I am a huge fan of Dune and that universe and all those books. And I have a special place in my heart for David Lynch and his 1984 bizarro version of Dune. I know all about that inside and out. And what Denis Villeneuve has created is a triumph, but it is also incomplete. And it makes me want to talk about what is not on screen, but what is missing. I really want to talk about what's missing from Dune. There's so much more that could have been in there. And now with today's announcement that Warner Brothers is going to finance and help him produce and make part 2 of Dune, I hope to goodness that he will start to pick up the storytelling with more of the things that he was missing. In the first movie, he focuses on Paul Atreides and his emotional state of mind, where he starts to get more and more dreams and foresights, visions in his foresights, and can't make out whether they're going to be real or whether they're not going to come true. And he doesn't spend as much time telling us about space travel and why the spice is super, super duper important to space travel. The reason why I'm looking forward to the second movie is because we didn't see enough of the Spacing Guild, which has a monopoly on all space travel, intergalactic space travel in that universe, is completely monopolized by the Spacing Guild. And Villeneuve created a movie which is sumptuous and gorgeous and very emotional and really big scale movie, but it's still missing a lot of meat and potatoes that are going to make it more fleshed out and more political intrigue. We didn't even see the Emperor Shaddam IV. He's completely off stage, while in David Lynch's version of Dune back in 1984, which is rather overstuffed with a lot of exposition and a lot of things, you had a world-class actor Jose Ferrer playing Shaddam IV. And in Villeneuve's movie, that character is not present at all. And the Spacing Guild is only mentioned in one sentence, only one sentence. And you don't even see the what the Spacing Guild navigators look like at all, especially after the use of the spice mutates their bodies into something really unhuman and bizarre. But even though David Lynch took a lot of time and effort to show us all of these characters and interesting political maneuverings of the Spacing Guild, Villeneuve is not interested in that. He's more interested in the emotional color of House Atreides versus House Harkonnen against each other. And he spends his time dwelling on that. So
and I love that. So I'm exactly the opposite of Cliff. I have never read the books. I never saw David Lynch's movie, and I know nothing about anything when it comes to Dune. Zero.
Okay, so guess what? You have so much more to look forward to when Villeneuve gets behind the camera and makes part 2, because there's a lot more juicy stuff, a lot more stuff.
And I will say this, as someone that knows nothing about this world, I'm talking nothing. Atreides, I thought Atreides was something from Neverending Story. So no, going into this,
named Atreyu.
That's how much I didn't know about Dune. So I go into this movie. You can totally follow it. I understood everything. I have no questions coming out of that movie. I understood who everyone was, where everything was, what the importance of the spice was. Like, at this point, we know that our iPhones require rare earth metals that are hard to come by, and there's this whole thing of, like, we just know as a society that, making our technology requires, rare earth metals and rare metals that are hard to mine. So when they just said space travel is made possible by this rare thing, it's like, okay, cool. And then, later in the movie, they explain
only one sentence that you got out of it, and that was enough for you?
That was all I needed. I'm like, cool. I know what this stuff is. It's a drug for some. It's a thing. It's a thing for space travel.
It was
Cool.
the equivalent of petroleum when
Yeah, I get
suddenly
it. Like, yeah. So
bubbles
that
in
little exposition
5, it
totally
was
explained it.
with petroleum.
Yeah, I get it. So for those of you that might be hesitant because everyone else seems to know about Dune and you don't, I know nothing about it. I went in and I understood everything completely. It's a totally on it. And the brilliant thing about Denis Villeneuve is
He
he
did
makes
he did
films
succeed
that
in
you
making
can
it.
understand and follow.
I agree with that. He made the movie for neophytes. I mean, he made the movie for newbies. That's what I meant to say. He made that movie to be as accessible as possible for noobs. But you know what? There's a lot of space between the bricks. And I'm looking now, in terms of narrative and meat and potatoes, I'm looking for the mortar between the bricks for his next film. And if it works out, maybe Warner Brothers will give him a chance to make more movies because
Well, I don't
the
know if
real
he
the
just
real
wants to
test
make part two,
appears
but
in the second and third volumes of the Dune novel series. That's when it
so
gets really wild.
Cliff, I wanted to ask you on Dune. Um, when I walked out of the theater, an IMAX theater, it was an amazing experience. I had never felt a world so real since Lord of the Rings. I had never come out of a movie in 20 years with a feeling of like I just saw a documentary. That world was completely real. Everything made sense. Everything just felt physical and real. Did you get that vibe?
Yes, yes, it was very tangible. It was very tangible, and it was very real. But it was also a little bit. It was a little bit strange that I was looking for more. You know what? Maybe that's not so strange.
Look, we get it. You know too much and you wanted to know more. But let me ask you this. Does
This way.
this movie set a higher bar for Lord of the Rings?
um, this movie because all the look at Blade Runner 2049 and look at Arrival. Look at the other science fiction movies
No,
that
I'm talking about Dune in 2021. Does it set an
yes,
unreasonably high bar for Amazon's Lord of the Rings?
yes, everything that Villeneuve touches sets a higher and higher bar for science fiction and speculative fiction and fantasy. Yes, because it is so immersive and so powerful. The imagery is very powerful and extraordinary, but um, it's also it's also a challenge because Peter Jackson is a master of the intimate emotional moments where he comes in really close and he says, keep it secret, keep it safe. And then Peter Jackson can pull all the way back. And suddenly you're looking at a wide shot of this massive battlefield. And you know, that is something to do cinematically. And I can see that Villeneuve is also very capable at doing that too. He's got he's got a lot more storytelling to do, and I'm excited for that. I'm honestly excited. But in terms of raising the bar for Amazon, they've got their own um, bag of endless money. People have the highest expectations for Amazon Studios because they know they have endless resources, endless money, and they will not stop at anything to, get it done. Even packing up and moving the production all the way out of New Zealand and moving it to the UK.
That's what I'm saying.
Everybody.
Like, you cannot qualify the Amazon TV show, even though it's Lord of the Rings. We will not accept a qualification that, oh, this is the TV version, so it's not going to feel like a film. Wrong. The show has to feel like what came before, and Dune is the latest in storytelling that just ups
Yeah.
the bar visually.
Yes. Yes, it certainly does. It certainly does. I agree. It's it's really cool. There are some people who are responding to Dune as if it is rather austere. And you know what? It does have that quality. I'll agree. Do you know our author friend, Ian? Um,
Nathan?
Remember our author friend, Ian? Ian Nathan said on Twitter that he thought that this visual experience of Dune was rather austere. But I also think the original 1984 version that David Lynch has is, I mean, the physical giant hand-built, hand-painted sets are kind of austere and huge. And there's this, yeah, there's something pretty, there's something about it. And I think that's in the quality of Frank Herbert's storytelling, because he has a lot on his mind. There's nothing light or frivolous about Dune. It is the type of science fiction that has a lot of serious stuff on its mind, including.
Well, same with Tolkien's Second Age.
Yes, yes, that's true. That's true. Even Professor Tolkien is guilty of that. He has a lot of things on his mind.
The Second Age is more political drama than anything in Lord of the Rings.
Well, the politics are much more severe and explicit. Tolkien doesn't dabble so much in politics the way that, you know, Frank Herbert does. But
so Cliff, I went into Dune not knowing anything. They have these giant sandworms, and all I could think of is Peter Jackson's mountain worms. Did Dune try to copy Peter Jackson, or did Tolkien write about sandworms? Where did the sandworms in The Hobbit come from?
They were a reference to just a brief one sentence thing about the wereworms. And that's all. It's a throwaway. It is literally, I don't mean that anything that Tolkien wrote was throwaway, because it wasn't, but I'm using the idiomatic expression that there was just a throwaway line in The Hobbit. Those giant earth mountain movers that Peter Jackson put into the Battle of the Five Armies are wild speculation, and that's all. There's nothing in J.R.R. Tolkien that he wrote that in the 1930s, okay? So the very first time that giant sandworms were depicted was in 1965 by Frank Herbert. There's no antecedent in Tolkien, so okay. Don't look for one. I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you right there, Justin. Okay?
Okay, no connection.
That was a ridiculous theatrical invention, but it was kind of visually wild. It was visually wild.
So are we going to see wereworms in the Second Age, and are they bigger?
Say that again.
Are we going to see wereworms in the Second Age, and will they be bigger?
No, we're not going to see that.
Oh boy. Well,
now hold on. I want to say that I hope that every big effort in bringing fantasy and science fiction is successful. I want all the fans of Lee Pace are telling me a lot about Foundation on Apple Plus, and a lot of other science fiction fans are telling me that they've got issues with Foundation. A lot of Isaac Asimov people that I talk to.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about Foundation, but only after you've seen it, because there's some very specific things with Foundation that relate to the latest rumors on Amazon show, as far as like the storytelling and time jumps and this idea of telling a past story and a future story and non-linear storytelling, I guess. Foundation does a lot of time jumps. It is linear, but I'm so confused by it. But I want to talk to you after you've seen it, though. We can't really talk about it until you've seen it, because it's so amazing, and it's a high budget thing.
I'm looking forward to checking it out. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
All right. Well,
Okay,
that's you guys. That's the big thing. Go watch Dune. Go. What you can watch it on HBO Max. I think in most countries, maybe I don't know. Watch it in a theater, please. Please watch it in a theater. It's great. It's easy to follow along. Honestly, the first time I saw Lord of the Rings without reading the books, I was confused between Saruman and Sauron. I was like, all right, who's the bad guy? And you're like, you told me they're both the bad guy. I'm like, yeah, but they're why are they named the same thing? So even those two names, and then I still don't know. I still didn't know who the two towers were. Like which two towers? There's a lot of towers. So Dune, the movie, is much easier to follow if you know nothing about the story than Peter Jackson's movies were if you did not know the story. If that makes sense. So I highly recommend Dune. It sounds like Cliff recommends Dune, and.
I do. I'll recommend both. I will recommend to the audience to go check out the original 1984 movie.
No, we're talking about Denis Villeneuve's new. Do not ruin your new movie by watching some old garbage.
Guess what? That's your opinion. I was talking about my opinion, and
I'm talking about it's not my opinion. It's David Lynch's opinion, who's disavowed his own film. So that's David Lynch doesn't like the movie.
He disavowed the network broadcast version of the film, where they added an extra 20 odd minutes to it and changed the entire movie. And he said, put Alan Smithy on that version. No, you know what? I would say both. Check out the brand new version, and if you find that really does whet your appetite, pick up the original book and go check out the 1984 version, even though it has a very bizarre ending that is made of magical nonsense, that is nothing at all like the book, but it's still intriguing that David Lynch did what he did. And I'm thoroughly satisfied with what Denis Villeneuve has made this sumptuous, dreamlike, very hypnotic and dreamlike version of Herbert's complex science fiction world. It's really amazing stuff. And I hope that Amazon Studios is going to not bring just Isildur, but getting back to our earlier conversation, I really want to see both of the brothers, Anarion, and, you know, he was in Peter Jackson's prologue. We should see a lot of Elendil, who is the leader of the faithful.
Right, he's a big player. Yeah,
he's the biggest. So we're going to have father and both sons, like this family dynamic with the whole Elendil family. I want to see all of that stuff, all of that. I'm really looking forward to that.
I am too. And to everybody in the chat room saying there's something new on Twitter, I just tried to go to Twitter, and wow, that isn't very friendly of you, buddy. Well, okay. I wish I knew what was just tweeted, but I think it has to do with look. I think we've been reporting for 18 months that there's going to be a time jump. From the pilot into episode 3. We've always been reporting there's going to be a time jump. We don't know what that time jump is, but now that we've seen the two trees, and there might be a big water battle, epic water battle.
We've also talked about there being an anthology series that has many different time jumps. We've actually speculated a lot on that as well. There might not just be one. There might be multiple big manipulations along the timeline.
And look with television, like you could open episode 4 of the show could open with Galadriel talking to Elrond and like, hey, remember when? And then spend the next 59 minutes showing a back history, you know, under the context of two characters having a current gen conversation. So Isildur might tip our hat to where the show is going in the first season, but we have heard from the beginning that J.A. Bayona's pilot is a standalone story. It's kind of like a 2-hour movie.
You know, I think actually that's a fascinating approach. I think that's a fascinating approach because it might allow them to package that separately as a movie. They might package it as a theatrical release.
No, they can't. Legally, we know for sure. New Line Cinema holds exclusive movie rights, and Amazon holds exclusive television rights. New Line
That's
cannot
right.
make a TV series for HBO Max, and Amazon cannot put this show in theaters.
We
Period. End of
understand.
story.
Okay. Copy that. Copy that. Okay.
So, well, Cliff, enjoy your time. Hey, speaking of Cantina, guess what I got from the manufacturer today?
Oh.
Beskar.
Ooh, that Beskar, big Beskar. Those are
Big
beautiful.
Beskar. If you look at that, that is the Scum and Villainy logo right there on the Beskar. Look at that. Look at that. So Beskar, actual metal Beskar, now available at Scum and Villainy.
That Beskar is gorgeous, and you should get some. I want to get some too. But the tweet was Amazon will not be adopting.
Well, we don't. I don't know. I don't believe that. And he backs. There's no backup. There's no backup on anything. It's always like exclusive rumor, but I can't tell you where it's from. Look, we play that game too, so I don't know. Yeah, but we're not going to read it. So if you want to find it, go find it. Cliff, it's great to have you on the show. Enjoy the Cantina.
I'm talking about grammar. There's a double negative in the sentence. And
right.
I read it two or three times to make sure I got it right.
Anyways, yeah, I don't think anyone's got it right.
The show has been really exciting and very interesting to talk to everybody about that. I would assume that if you've got 5 seasons or more as your play box, as your toy box, you could go in any number of ways, in any number of possible methods of manipulating the narrative. And I imagine you'll have a lot of bandwidth, a lot of leeway to do that. However, the ultimate thing to remember...
Heck yeah, I'm mad. The chat room, I'm mad. Look at this. That's...
You're not mad.
Baby games. Baby games. Anyway.
You're fine. The thing is that we don't know what we don't know. And that's the bottom line. We don't know what we don't know. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So thank you, everybody, for coming to join us on OneRing.net. And it is really lovely to have everyone with us. Such a great time. Wonderful dynamic exchange with the people in the chat. And yes, I want Palantir. I would love to see some Palantir early in season 1 on this TV series. But
well, you're gonna love Peter Thiel's new company.
No, shut up. That's gross. No. Thumbs down. Okay. This is where the emperor in the Colosseum says. So have a good night, everybody. Have a wonderful, safe week, and we'll see you next time here. My name is Clifford Broadway. That there's Justin Sewell. Say goodnight, Justin, and I'll sign us out.
Good night, everybody.
And I'll say also, come and see us next week. You know where to find me. I'm on QuickBeam 2000 on social channels, and we'll be here next Tuesday at 5:00 p.m. Pacific time for more Middle-earth news and gossip and information straight from the second age and maybe any other age. We'll get there when we find out.
First age, third age, pre-age, who knows?
Thanks for being with us, everybody. Have a good week. Until then, good night and good luck, or better yet, buenos noches y buena suerte. Bye.
Bye. Did you hear that trailer release date?
For what?